My husband left me at a gas station on our anniversary and said, "We'll be back in 3 hours." I realized I had the credit card. I booked a flight to Paris and left him stranded in the desert with no money. The desert does not care if you are having a midlife crisis. It does not care if your marriage is crumbling or if your children are treating you like an unpaid servant. The desert only cares about one thing, and that is heat. It was 105 degrees outside Kingman, Arizona. The asphalt of Interstate 40 was shimmering, creating a mirage that made the horizon look like it was melting into a pool of mercury. I was behind the wheel of a 30-foot rental recreational vehicle that handled like a shopping cart full of bricks. My knuckles were white. My back was fused to the cheap faux leather driver's seat by a layer of sweat. My name is Linda Prentiss. I am 52 years old. I am an emergency room nurse, which means I am used to blood, screaming, and 12-hour shifts on my feet. But nothing in my 30 years of triage had prepared me for the absolute hell of a family bonding road trip. "Linda, you are drifting left," my husband Gary said from the passenger seat. He did not look up from his phone. He was playing a golf game, his thumb swiping across the screen with more passion than he had touched me with in a decade. "I am not drifting, Gary," I said, my voice tight. "It is the wind. This thing catches the wind like a sail." "Just watch the line," he muttered. "I do not want to lose the deposit. We need that money for the boat repairs." The boat. Of course. I gripped the steering wheel harder. I gripped it until my tendons felt like they might snap. We were supposed to be in Paris. That was the deal. 25 years ago, on the day we got married, Gary had promised me that for our silver anniversary, we would go to Paris. He promised me champagne on the Eiffel Tower. He promised me art museums and river cruises. Today was our 25th anniversary. And here I was, driving a house on wheels through the Mojave Desert, smelling the chemical toilet from the back, while Gary played digital golf. "Mom!" my son, Tyler, shouted from the back. He is 19 years old. He should be in college, or at a job, or at least capable of lowering his voice. "The Wi-Fi is down again. Fix it." "I am driving, Tyler," I said, looking in the rearview mirror. He was sprawled on the dinette bench, wearing headphones around his neck, staring at a blank tablet. His sister, my stepdaughter Jessica, was sitting opposite him. She is 24. She was currently taking a selfie with a bag of potato chips, pouting her lips in that ridiculous way that she thinks makes her look like a model. "It is probably the hotspot," Jessica said, not looking at me. "Linda probably forgot to pay the bill. Again." She calls me Linda, never Mum. Never Linda, the woman who paid for her braces. Never Linda, the woman who paid off her credit card debt twice. Just Linda. The help. "The bill is paid," I said, forcing my voice to remain calm. "We are in the desert, Jessica. There are no cell towers." "Ugh, this is literally torture," Jessica groaned. "I cannot post anything. My followers are going to think I died." If you have ever poured your entire soul into a family that treats you like a piece of furniture, if you know the specific, burning rage of being invisible to the people you support financially and emotionally, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Because I am about to show you that there is a limit to how much a woman can take before she breaks, and my limit was approaching at 70 miles per hour. I looked over at Gary. He had leaned his seat back. He was closing his eyes. "Gary," I said, "it is my turn to rest. You need to drive." "My back is acting up, Lynn," he said, not opening his eyes. "That mattress in the back is terrible. Just push through to the next stop. You are doing great." His back. Gary's back was always acting up when there was work to be done. It was fine when he was fishing. It was fine when he was bowling with his brother. But the moment I needed help, his lumbar region became a medical emergency. I looked at the fuel gauge. We were at a quarter tank. I looked at the dashboard clock. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I need to stop, I said. I need gas, and I need to use the restroom. We have a bathroom in the back, Gary mumbled. I am not using a bathroom that is moving at highway speeds, Gary, I said. And besides, the tank is full. Tyler forgot to empty it this morning like he promised. I forgot, okay? Tyler shouted from the back. Get off my case. I signaled right. I saw a sign for a gas station. Roy's, stop, gas, water, ice. It looked like a place where hope went to die. It was a dusty, sun-bleached building, sitting alone in a sea of gravel and scrub brush. The awning over the pumps was rusted. There were 2 semi-trucks idling in the lot, vibrating in the heat. I pulled the massive RV off the highway. The gravel crunched loudly under the tires. The suspension groaned as I navigated the potholes. I pulled up to the diesel pump. I put the vehicle in park. I pulled the parking brake. My hands were shaking as I let go of the wheel. My shoulders were knots of tension. Okay, I said. Pit stop. Everyone out to stretch legs? Silence. Gary was snoring lightly. Tyler had put his headphones back on. Jessica was applying lip gloss. I guess not, I whispered. I grabbed my purse from the floorboard. I always kept it close. It was a habit from the hospital. Never leave your valuables unattended. Inside was my wallet, my passport, and my phone. I stood up. My knees popped. I am going inside to pay for gas and use the restroom, I announced loudly. I will be 10 minutes. Does anyone want anything? Water, Tyler said without looking up. We are out. We cannot be out, I said. I bought a 24-pack yesterday. I was thirsty, Tyler shrugged. 24 bottles of water in one day, and he hadn't saved one for the woman driving the car. Fine, I said. I will get water. Gary? Gary? Gary snorted and opened one eye. What? I am going inside, I said. Do not leave. Do not move this vehicle. Yeah. He waved a hand at me dismissively. Grab me a beef stick. And a lottery ticket. I looked at him. He didn't even know what day it was. He hadn't said happy anniversary. He hadn't booked a dinner reservation. He had just asked for a beef stick. I opened the passenger door. The heat hit me like a physical blow. It was suffocating. It smelled of diesel fumes and dry sage. I stepped down onto the cracked concrete. I slammed the door shut. I walked toward the building. It was about 50 yards away. The sun beat down on my head. I could feel the sweat instantly prickling on my scalp. I walked into the store. A bell jingled above the door. It was cool inside, thank God. The air conditioning was rattling, blowing air that smelled of stale coffee and floor wax. The clerk was an older man, with skin like leather and a trucker hat that said Vietnam Vet. He was reading a newspaper. Pump 4, I said, placing a $20 bill on the counter for the snacks. And fill it up with diesel. I will swipe the card at the pump, but I need to buy some water first. Help yourself, ma'am, the clerk said. Ice cold in the back. I walked to the coolers. I stood there for a moment, letting the cold air wash over me. I closed my eyes. For a second, I imagined I was in Paris. I imagined the cool air was a breeze off the Seine. I imagined the smell of old coffee was fresh croissants. But then I opened my eyes and saw the rows of neon-coloured energy drinks and the reflection of a tired, middle-aged woman in a nurse's t-shirt. I grabbed 2-gallon jugs of water because buying individual bottles for Tyler was a waste of money. I grabbed a beef stick for Gary because I was a creature of habit. I grabbed a bag of pretzels for myself because I realized I hadn't eaten lunch. I walked back to the counter. I paid. "Hot one out there," the clerk said. "You have no idea," I muttered. I used the restroom. It was surprisingly clean, though the mirror was cracked. I washed my hands. I splashed cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. "Happy anniversary, Linda," I whispered to my reflection. I dried my hands with a brown paper towel. I picked up the heavy water jugs, one in each hand. I walked back out into the furnace. The bell jingled behind me. I looked toward pump 4. I blinked. I looked again. Pump 4 was empty. The massive, beige, stripe-painted RV was gone. I stood there on the sidewalk, the plastic handles of the water jugs cutting into my fingers. I scanned the parking lot. Maybe they moved to the air pump. Maybe they moved to the shade. The lot was empty except for the 2 semi-trucks. I looked toward the highway on-ramp. About half a mile away, merging onto the interstate, I saw a large beige rectangle shimmering in the heat waves. A cloud of dust billowed behind it. They had left me. My stomach dropped. It felt like I was in an elevator that had snapped its cable. I dropped the water jugs. They hit the concrete with a heavy thud. One of them cracked, water bleeding out onto the thirsty pavement. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I ran to the edge of the road. I waved my arms. "Gary!" I screamed. "Gary!" The RV didn't slow down. It didn't brake. It just kept gaining speed, merging into the left lane, disappearing into the vast brown emptiness of the Arizona desert. I stood there until my throat was raw and my eyes were stinging with tears and dust. They left me. My husband. My children. They drove away without checking to see if I was inside. I felt a panic rising in my chest, tight and sharp. I patted my side. My purse. Thank God, I had my purse. I pulled out my phone. "Battery, 4%. Come on," I hissed. "Don't die on me." I dialed Gary's number. It rang and rang and rang. "This is Gary, leave a message." I dialed Jessica, straight to voicemail. She probably had her phone on Do Not Disturb for her beauty sleep. I dialed Tyler. He answered on the second ring. "What?" Tyler said. He sounded annoyed. "Tyler!" I screamed. "Tyler, put your father on the phone right now." "Mom?" Tyler sounded confused. "Why are you calling me? Are you in the bathroom?" "I am at the gas station," I yelled. "You left me. You drove away." There was a silence on the line. Then I heard Tyler say, muffled, "Dad, Mom says we left her." I heard shuffling. Then Gary's voice came on the line. "Linda? Turn around," I said. My voice was shaking so hard I could barely form the words. "Gary, turn around right now. You left me at the gas station." "Oh, shoot," Gary said. He didn't sound horrified. He didn't sound terrified. He sounded mildly inconvenienced, like he had forgotten the ketchup at a drive-thru. "We thought you were sleeping in the back bedroom. I didn't want to wake you." "Turn around," I repeated. "I cannot just turn around, Lynn," Gary said. "I am on the interstate. There is a median wall. I haven't seen a turnaround for miles." "Gary, it is 105 degrees, I said. "I am standing in the sun." Okay, relax," Gary sighed. "Don't be dramatic. Go back inside the store. Get a soda. Sit in the AC." "How long?" I asked. "How long until you get back?" "Well," Gary hesitated. "According to the GPS, the next exit isn't for 20 miles. And this rig is slow. By the time I get off, loop back, and drive back. Plus traffic." He did mental math. "Probably 2 hours," he said. "Maybe 3. We made really good time leaving the station." 2 or 3 hours. He expected me to sit on a plastic chair in a gas station for 3 hours on my 25th anniversary because he couldn't be bothered to check the passenger seat. "Gary," I said, "it is our anniversary." I know," he said dismissively. "We will celebrate when I pick you up. We can get pizza tonight at the campground. Just hang tight. And hey, while you are there, see if they sell those phone chargers? Mine is fraying." Something inside me broke. It wasn't a loud break. It wasn't an explosion. It was a quiet, clean snap, like a dry twig being stepped on. I looked at the cracked pavement. I looked at the water leaking from the jug I had bought for them. I looked at the heat waves radiating off the road. For 25 years, I had been the one waiting. I waited for him to find a job. I waited for him to do the dishes. I waited for him to notice me. I waited for the trip to Paris. I was done waiting. "Linda?" Gary asked. "You there? You are breaking up." "I am here," I said. My voice was suddenly very calm. It was the voice I used when a patient was coding and I needed to focus. "Okay, sit tight," Gary said. "See you in a bit." He hung up. I stared at the black screen of my phone. Battery, 2%. The screen went black. The phone died. I stood there in the silence of the desert. I looked back at the gas station. The clerk was watching me through the window. I walked back toward the store. But as I approached the door, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Parked near the air pump, hidden partially by one of the semi-trucks, was a white passenger van. The engine was idling. On the side of the van, painted in blue letters, were the words, "Vegas Airport Shuttle." The driver, a young man in a polo shirt, was tossing a suitcase into the back. Las Vegas. Kingman was only about 100 miles from Las Vegas. I stopped. I looked down at my shoes. They were nursing sneakers, sensible and sturdy. They were covered in desert dust. I looked at my purse. Inside that purse was my passport. I had brought it because my driver's license had expired the week before the trip, and I hadn't had time to go to the DMV, so I was using my passport card as ID. And tucked into the side pocket of my wallet was the card, the Platinum Visa. It was linked to a separate account, an account Gary didn't have access to. It was the inheritance my mother had left me 2 years ago, $50,000. Gary called it our nest egg. He had been pestering me for months to let him use it to invest in a friend's crypto mining rig business. I had told him no. I had told him it was for emergencies. Well, I looked at the empty highway where my family had vanished. This felt like an emergency. I walked toward the shuttle van. "Excuse me," I called out to the driver. He turned around. "Yeah?" "Where are you going?" I asked. "Harry Reid International," he said. "Las Vegas. Leaving in 5 minutes. You got a reservation?" "No," I said. "Do you have a seat?" "One left," he said. $60. Cash." I reached into my wallet. I had exactly $80 in cash. I handed him 3 20s. "Keep the change," I said. "Luggage?" he asked, looking at my empty hands. "No," I said. "No luggage." "All right, hop in." I climbed into the van. It smelled of vanilla air freshener and cool, refrigerated air. I sat down in the back seat by the window. I buckled my seatbelt. The driver slammed the sliding door shut. As we pulled out of the gas station, onto the highway, heading west toward the neon lights of Las Vegas, I didn't look back at the spot where the RV had been. I looked forward. Gary said he would be back in 2 or 3 hours. I wondered how long he would wait at that gas station before he realized that I wasn't there. I wondered how long it would take him to realize that the credit card he relied on to buy gas for that monstrosity was currently in my purse, traveling at 70 miles per hour in the opposite direction. A small, cold smile touched my lips. 2 or 3 hours, I whispered to the window. He was going to be waiting a lot longer than that. The road from Kingman to Las Vegas is a stretch of asphalt that cuts through the heart of nowhere. Sitting in the back of the shuttle van, pressing my forehead against the cool glass, I watched the cactus skeletons blur past. The driver had the radio tuned to a classic rock station, and the thumping bass of a Fleetwood Mac song vibrated through the seat. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 25 years, I wasn't driving. I wasn't navigating. I wasn't handing back juice boxes or mediating arguments about the air conditioning. I was just moving. My phone was still dead in my purse, a black brick of silence. I knew that by now, Gary must have realized I wasn't in the bathroom. They had probably stopped at the next exit, maybe 20 miles down the road. They would be walking through the RV, calling my name, checking the tiny closet-sized shower. I imagined the look on Jessica's face when she realized she might actually have to refill her own water bottle. I imagined Tyler looking up from his video game, annoyed that the vehicle had stopped moving. And Gary. I imagined Gary standing on the side of the highway, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, looking at his watch, calculating how much time this inconvenience was going to cost him. He had said 2 or 3 hours. He said it so casually, as if my time, my comfort, my life was just a variable in his equation that could be paused and unpaused at his will. We crossed the Hoover Dam bypass bridge. The water of Lake Mead looked like a spilled ink pot far below. I thought about the boat. 3 years ago, Gary had taken a severance package from his sales job. It was $15,000. We had credit card debt. We needed a new roof. But Gary had come home towing a 20-foot fishing boat that had seen better days. "It is an investment, Lynn," he had told me, beaming like a child. "We will fix it up. We will take it to the lake every weekend. It will bring the family together." I begged him to return it. I told him we couldn't afford the slip fees, the gas, the maintenance. He told me I was a killjoy. He told me I didn't know how to dream. He took the boat out exactly twice. The second time, he forgot to put the drain plug in. It sank in 4 feet of water at the marina. It cost us another $2,000 to salvage it and haul it to the junkyard. That boat was our marriage. A leaking vessel that I was constantly bailing out while he stood at the helm, pretending to be a captain. The shuttle van slowed down. The neon glow of Las Vegas appeared on the horizon, defying the desert darkness. "Terminal 1 or 3, the driver called out. "International," I said. "Whichever handles European flights." "Terminal 3, he said. We pulled up to the curb. The airport was a chaotic hive of activity. People were dragging suitcases, hugging loved ones, smoking nervous cigarettes. I stepped out of the van. The heat here was different than the desert. It smelled of jet fuel and exhaust. I walked through the sliding glass doors. The sound of slot machines hit me instantly. Ding, 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 a relentless, manic soundtrack. I looked down at myself. I was wearing denim capris and a t-shirt that said nurse, coffee, scrubs, and rubber gloves. My sneakers were coated in red Arizona dust. My hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail that was frizzing in the humidity. I looked like a woman who had lost everything. But as I walked across the polished terrazzo floor, clutching my purse, I felt a strange weight in my pocket. The platinum visa, the inheritance. My mother had left it to me with a note. "For a rainy day, Linda. Don't let Gary spend it on toys." It wasn't raining outside, but inside my soul, it was pouring. I looked at the departures board. The amber letters flipped over with a satisfying clatter. London, Tokyo, Frankfurt. And there it was. Paris, Charles de Gaulle. Air France, Flight 083. Departing 8:30 in the evening. It was 5 o'clock now. I walked toward the Air France counter. The line for economy class was long, snaking back and forth between the ropes. Babies were crying. People were sleeping on their luggage. I didn't get in that line. I walked to the red carpet. The lane marked La Première, first class. There was no line. The agent behind the counter was a woman with an immaculate chignon and a silk scarf tied around her neck. She looked up as I approached. Her eyes flicked over my dusty sneakers, my frizzy hair, my nurse t-shirt. She didn't sneer, but her eyebrows rose a fraction of an inch. "Can I help you, madame?" she asked. Her accent was thick and elegant. "I need a ticket," I said. My voice was raspy from the desert dust. I cleared my throat. "To Paris. Tonight." "The flight is quite full," she said, typing on her keyboard without looking at me. "I believe we only have seats in our premium cabins." "That is fine," I said. "A one-way ticket in La Première is—" She hesitated, turning the screen slightly as if to spare me the shock. "It is $6,400, madam." $6,000. That was the cost of the roof repair we needed. That was 3 months of Tyler's tuition at the community college he was failing out of. That was the price of the transmission repair on the RV that Gary had insisted we didn't need insurance for. I reached into my wallet. I pulled out the heavy metal card. It glinted under the terminal lights. "One way?" I said. I slid the card across the counter. The agent picked it up. She looked at the name. She looked at me. Her expression changed. She saw the dust on my shoes, but she also saw the steel in my eyes. "Passport, please," she said. I handed it to her. She swiped the card. I held my breath. Part of me expected Gary to jump out from behind a pillar and snatch it away. Part of me expected the machine to beep and say, "Permission denied by husband." Click, click, whir. The receipt printed. "You are all set, Mrs. Prentiss," the agent said, handing me a boarding pass printed on thick stock paper. "You have access to the lounge. They have showers there, if you would like to freshen up before the flight, and champagne." "A shower?" I whispered. "That sounds heavenly." "And your luggage?" she asked. I looked down at my purse. It was all I had. No clothes, no toothbrush, no phone charger. "I am checking nothing," I said. "I am traveling light," while I was walking toward the security checkpoint, feeling lighter with every step. The reality of my absence was just crashing down on the occupants of a beige RV 40 miles outside of Kingman. Gary Prentiss was sweating. He had driven 20 miles to the next exit, just as he predicted. He had turned the massive, lumbering vehicle around, cursing the entire time about the fuel consumption. He had driven 20 miles back. He had pulled into Roy's stop, nearly taking out a trash can with the back bumper. He had run inside. He had asked the clerk, the veteran with the leather skin, where the lady in the nurse shirt was. "She left," the clerk had said, not looking up from his paper. "Left?" Gary had stammered. "Walked?" "Shuttle," the clerk said. "Vegas, about an hour ago." Gary had walked back to the RV. He stood by the driver's door, staring at the empty highway. "She went to Vegas?" Jessica asked from the passenger seat, scrolling through her phone, which now had a signal. "Why would she go to Vegas? That is so random." "She is being dramatic," Gary said, wiping his face. "She is trying to teach us a lesson. She probably got a hotel room and is waiting for us to come beg her to come back." "Well, let's go get her," Tyler complained. "I am hungry. We have no food." "We have to get gas first," Gary said. "The light is on. He climbed back into the driver's seat. He pulled the RV up to the diesel pump. He got out. He reached for his back pocket to grab his wallet. He froze. His wallet was empty. Usually, Linda carried the cash. Linda carried the travel credit card because it got points for miles. Gary carried a debit card for his personal checking account, which currently had a balance of about $42. Shoot, Gary muttered. He walked back to the RV window. Jessica, he said, give me your credit card. I will pay you back. I don't have a credit card, Dad, Jessica said, rolling her eyes. You guys pay for everything. I only have my Venmo. Tyler? I am broke, Tyler said. Mom didn't give me my allowance this week. Gary rubbed his temples. The heat was radiating off the pavement, cooking him in his shoes. Okay, Gary said. Okay, no problem. The emergency card. He opened the glove box. He dug through the registration papers, the tire gauge, the old maps. He was looking for the backup visa, the one they kept for emergencies. It wasn't there. He tossed the papers onto the floor. He felt around the back of the compartment. Empty. Then he remembered. Linda had cleaned out the glove box before they left. She said she was organizing it. She said she was putting all the important documents in her purse for safekeeping. Her purse. The purse that was currently on a shuttle to Las Vegas. She has the cards, Gary whispered. She has all the cards. Dad, Tyler shouted. The pump keeps clicking off. Did you pay? Gary looked at the pump. He looked at the vast, empty desert. He looked at his 2 adult children who were useless in a crisis. He pulled out his phone. He had 1 bar of service. He opened his banking app. Maybe he could transfer money. Maybe he could move something from the savings to his checking. He logged in. He tapped on joint savings. Access denied. He frowned. He tapped again. Access denied. User privileges revoked. His heart hammered against his ribs. That wasn't possible. Unless... He tapped on the recent transactions for the joint checking account, the one that paid the bills. It was normal. But then, a notification banner slid down from the top of his screen. It was an email alert from the family shared account. Transaction alert. Visa Platinum, ending in 8892. Merchant. AR France, Las Vegas. Amount, 6,420 baht. Status, approved. Gary stared at the screen. The numbers blurred. $6,000. She hadn't just gone to Vegas. She was buying... What cost $6,000? Air France, he whispered. Dad? Jessica called out. Why do you look like you are going to throw up? She isn't waiting for us, Gary said. His voice was high and thin, like a reed in the wind. She is at the airport. So? Jessica said. Drive to the airport. We can't, Gary said. He looked at the fuel gauge. The needle was touching the red line. We don't have enough gas to make it to Vegas, and we don't have any money to buy gas. So what do we do? Tyler asked, panic finally entering his voice. Gary looked at the dusty horizon. He realized then that the servant had not just walked off the job. She had burned the manor down on her way out. I sat in the first-class lounge at Harry Reid International. I had taken a shower. The water had been hot and plentiful, washing away the dust of Kingman and the grime of the RV. I was wearing the same clothes, the nurse t-shirt and the capris, but I had washed them in the sink and dried them with the hairdryer. They felt cleaner. I sat in a leather armchair by the window, watching the planes taxi on the tarmac. A waiter brought me a flute of champagne and a plate of smoked salmon canapés. Thank you, I said. My pleasure, madame, he replied. My phone was plugged into the charging station next to my chair. It had finally come back to life. As soon as the screen lit up, it began to vibrate. It buzzed and danced on the table like an angry insect. 32 missed calls from Gary. 14 missed calls from Tyler. 10 missed calls from Jessica. And the texts, a waterfall of texts. Gary. Linda, where are you? Gary. The guy said you took a shuttle? Jessica. Dad is freaking out. Tyler. Mum, I'm hungry. Gary. We are at the gas station. We have no money. You have the cards. Gary. What is this Air France charge? Gary. Linda, answer me. Gary. Pick up the phone. I watched the messages scroll by. I didn't feel anxiety. I didn't feel guilt. If you have ever been the person who holds the world together for everyone else, only to be left behind when you needed a hand, you know the peace I was feeling. It is the peace of dropping the weight. It is the peace of realizing that their emergency is no longer your emergency. I picked up the phone. I didn't open the texts. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I opened the camera app. I held up the glass of champagne. I angled it so the bubbles caught the light, with the tail of an Air France jet visible through the window behind it. I took a picture. I opened the family group chat, the one named Prentiss Family Adventure. I attached the photo. I typed a single message. The RV gets 6 miles to the gallon. I hope you have good walking shoes. I'm going to Paris. Don't wait up. I hit send. Then I went to my settings. Block caller. Gary. Block caller. Jessica. Block caller. Tyler. I put the phone down. Madame Prentiss? An attendant in a red uniform was standing at the door of the lounge. We are ready to board for Paris, she said with a smile. I stood up. I finished my champagne in one swallow. I am ready, I said. I walked toward the gate. I didn't look back at the phone. I didn't look back at the desert. I walked down the jet bridge. For the first time in 25 years, I was headed in the right direction. There is a specific kind of silence at 30,000 feet inside the cabin of an Air France Boeing 777. It is not the silence of emptiness, like the desert. It is the silence of insulation. It is the sound of money protecting you from the friction of the world. I lay fully reclined in seat 1A. The flight attendant, a lovely woman named Claire, had made up my bed with crisp white linens and a duvet that felt like sleeping inside a cloud. I was wearing the soft grey pajamas provided by the airline because my own clothes were still covered in the red dust of Kingman, Arizona. I held a glass of vintage Bordeaux in my hand. I watched the map on the screen in front of me. The little plane icon was inching over the Atlantic Ocean, leaving North America behind. I thought about the people I had left back on that continent. By my calculations, it was now 9 o'clock at night in Arizona. The sun would finally be setting, but the pavement would still be radiating heat like a pizza stone. The RV would be dark, because Gary wouldn't want to run the generator and waste the last dregs of fuel. They would be hungry. Tyler, who got hangry if he missed a meal by 30 minutes, would be complaining. Jessica, who couldn't survive without social media validation, would be staring at her phone in the dark, conserving battery, realizing that no one could like her status if she couldn't upload it. And Gary. Gary would be sitting in the driver's seat, staring at the fuel gauge, waiting for a miracle that wasn't coming. I took a sip of the wine. It tasted like blackberries and earth. It tasted like justice. 4,000 miles away, the miracle was definitely not coming. Gary Prentiss was sitting on the steps of the RV, swatting at a mosquito. It was pitch black at Roy's stop. The gas station had closed at 8 o'clock. The lights were off. The clerk had driven away in his pickup truck, leaving them alone in the gravel lot with the 2 sleeping semi-trucks. Dad, I am starving. Tyler whined from the darkness inside the RV. There is nothing to eat except mustard and stale pretzels. Drink water, Gary snapped. Fill up your stomach. We are out of water. Jessica's voice floated out. The jug Linda bought cracked when she dropped it. Remember? Gary put his head in his hands. He had spent the last 3 hours trying to find a way out of this. He had searched the RV for hidden cash. He found $2.40 in change in the ashtray. He had tried to call his bank to override the block on the joint account, but without Linda's verbal authorization code, which was her mother's maiden name, a name he realized with horror he couldn't spell, they wouldn't let him touch a dime. He had one option left, the option he had been dreading. He picked up his phone. He had 5% battery left. He scrolled to the contact he hated dialing. Frank Prentiss, his older brother. Frank was successful. Frank owned a chain of hardware stores. Frank had always told Gary that he was lazy and that Linda was the only reason Gary wasn't living under a bridge. Gary pressed call. It rang 4 times. Hello? Frank's voice was gruff. Hey, Frank. Gary forced a cheerful tone. It is Gary. Gary? It is midnight in Ohio. What do you want? Yeah, sorry about the time. Gary laughed nervously. Listen, we are on this road trip, right? Having a great time. But we hit a little snag. What kind of snag? Well, Gary swallowed his pride. It tasted like bile. We are in Arizona, and, well, Linda and I had a miscommunication. She had to fly out for an emergency, and she has the wallet. And the cards. You are stranded, Frank stated flatly. Just temporarily, Gary lied. I just need a little float. Just enough for gas to get us home. Maybe $500? I will Venmo you back as soon as we get to Columbus. Put Linda on the phone, Frank said. I told you she flew out, Gary said. Put her on the phone, Gary, Frank repeated. I am not sending you money unless I hear Linda say it is okay. I know you. You probably spent the gas money on scratch-off tickets. I didn't, Gary shouted. Frank, listen to me. She left us, okay? She got on a shuttle and went to Vegas and flew to Paris. She took the money. She took the cards. We are stuck at a gas station in the desert with no food and no fuel. There was a long silence on the line. Then Frank started laughing. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was a deep, belly-shaking laugh of vindication. She finally did it, Frank wheezed. Good for her. I didn't think she had it in her. It is not funny, Frank, Gary screamed. My kids are here. We are stranded. She finally dumped you, Frank chuckled. Man, I owe my wife $50. She bet Linda would last until Tyler graduated. Frank, please, Gary begged. His voice cracked. I am begging you. Just send me gas money. I will pay you back with interest. Fine, Frank sighed. I will send you $300. That should get you to a Western Union or something. But Gary? Yeah. Don't pay me back, Frank said. Use the money to buy a clue, because if Linda went to Paris without you, she is not coming back to Columbus. The line went dead. Gary stared at the phone. A notification popped up. Venmo. Frank Prentiss sent you $300. He had the money. He could buy gas in the morning when the station opened. They could limp home. But as he looked at the dark desert surrounding him, Gary realized something terrifying. He had to drive the RV back. Alone. He had to navigate. He had to park it. He had to dump the sewage tanks. He had to cook. He had to clean. He had to do everything Linda did. And he had to do it for 2,000 miles. I landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport at 11 o'clock in the morning, Paris time. I walked off the plane and felt the change in the air immediately. It was humid, cool, and smelled faintly of rain and jet fuel. To me, it smelled like perfume. I walked through customs. The officer looked at my passport. He looked at me. "Business or pleasure?" he asked. "Pleasure?" I said. "Strictly pleasure." "Welcome to France." I walked out into the arrivals hall. I didn't have to wait at the baggage carousel. I walked straight out the sliding doors to the taxi stand. It was raining, a soft grey drizzle that coated the world in silver. I got into a taxi. "Le Marais, s'il vous plaît," I said. My high school French was rusty, but it felt good to use it. The driver nodded. We merged onto the highway. I watched the city approach. The concrete suburbs gave way to stone buildings, wrought iron balconies, and the grey ribbon of the Seine. We passed the Stade de France. We passed the Sacré-Cœur, rising like a white wedding cake on the hill in the distance. Tears pricked my eyes. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief. I had made it. Gary had promised me this view for 25 years. He had dangled it like a carrot to keep me pulling the cart. Next year, Linda. Next bonus, Linda. After the boat is paid off, Linda. I didn't need him to bring me here. I had brought myself. The taxi dropped me off in front of a boutique hotel on a narrow cobblestone street. It was charming, with ivy growing up the facade and flower boxes in the windows. I checked in. The concierge did not look at my nurse t-shirt with judgment. He looked at the platinum card with respect. "We have upgraded you to a junior suite with a view of the street," he said. I went up to my room. It was small, but it was exquisite. There was a velvet armchair, a chandelier, and a bed with sheets that looked even softer than the ones on the plane. I walked to the window and opened it. The sounds of Paris drifted in, a scooter buzzing by, the clinking of coffee cups from the cafe below, the sound of rain on the cobblestones. I took a shower. I washed the last of the American desert off my skin. Then, I wrapped myself in the hotel robe and sat on the bed. I needed clothes. I couldn't walk around Paris in scrubs and sneakers. I picked up the hotel phone. "Concierge?" a voice answered. "Hello," I said. "I arrived without luggage. Could you recommend a shop nearby? Somewhere? Elegant?" "But of course, madame. There is a lovely boutique just across the street. Shall I call them and let them know you are coming?" "Please," I said. I dressed in my dirty clothes one last time. I walked across the street. The shop was quiet and smelled of lavender. The saleswoman helped me pick out a wardrobe. Not a mom wardrobe. Not sensible slacks and practical tops. I bought a silk blouse in emerald green. I bought tailored black trousers. I bought a trench coat that made me feel like a movie star. I bought a pair of leather ankle boots that were comfortable but chic. I put the nurse t-shirt in the trash can in the dressing room. Burn it, I thought. I walked out of the shop transformed. I caught my reflection in a shop window. I didn't look like Linda the nurse. I didn't look like Linda the wife. I didn't look like Linda the doormat. I looked like a woman who owned her own life. I walked to a cafe on the corner. I sat at a small round table outside, under the heater. I ordered a café crème and a croissant. I finally turned my phone back on. The barrage of messages resumed. "Gary. We got gas money from Frank. We are turning around." "Jessica. I am literally going to sue you for emotional distress." "Tyler. Mum. I don't know how to empty the toilet tank. It smells." I laughed. I laughed so hard that the man at the next table looked over and smiled at me. I decided it was time to reply. I opened my email app. I composed a new message. To Gary Prentiss. Subject: The return trip. Gary, by now you have realized that I am not coming back to the gas station. You are probably angry. You are probably panicked. You are probably blaming me for ruining the family vacation. But the family vacation was ruined the moment you decided that I was an employee instead of a partner. I am sitting in a cafe in Paris. It is raining, and it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I am drinking coffee that I didn't have to brew myself. I am wearing clothes that do not smell like bleach or diesel fuel. You have a long drive ahead of you, 2,000 miles. That is about 30 hours of driving. You will have plenty of time to think. Think about the boat. Think about the anniversary dinners you forgot. Think about the fact that you haven't asked me how my day was in 5 years. When you get back to Columbus, do not go to the house. The locks will be changed. I called my sister. She is meeting the locksmith there today. I have also transferred the remainder of the inheritance account to a new bank. You cannot touch it. It is my money. My mother left it to me to save me from a rainy day. And Gary, you were the storm. The divorce papers will be waiting for you at your brother Frank's house. I figure you can stay with him. He always had so much advice on how to handle me. Maybe he can handle you now. Good luck with the septic tank. You have to pull the lever on the left, not the right. If you pull the right one, it sprays. Au revoir. Linda? I hit send. Then, I did something I should have done years ago. I went to my contacts. Gary Prentiss, delete contact. Jessica Prentiss, delete contact. Tyler Prentiss, delete contact. I put the phone down on the table. The waiter arrived with my croissant. It was flaky, buttery, and perfect. I took a bite. If you have ever felt stuck in a life that feels like a cage, if you have ever let people treat you like an option instead of a priority, take a look at me. I am 52 years old. I am alone in a foreign country. I have no job lined up. I have no husband. And I have never been happier. I looked out at the street. The rain was stopping. The sun was breaking through the clouds, illuminating the wet cobblestones like diamonds. I finished my coffee. I stood up. I had a museum to visit. And then, a river cruise? And tonight? Tonight, I was going to the Eiffel Tower. I was going to drink champagne at the top. And I wasn't going to wish Gary was there. I was going to toast the woman who finally had the courage to leave him at the gas station. I was going to toast myself.